Man vs. 50 with author Richard Maloof.
What's going on, man?
Not much.
Yeah?
How are you?
Good. It's been a week for you?
It has been.
Yeah?
It's been a busy week.
Yes. Well, we're going to get into that today. So
An
exciting week. So we're going to
filled.
Yes, we're definitely going to get in that today. So first of all, like we talked about always at the beginning of the show.
Yep.
If you're a big fan, we have a lot of fans out there. It's growing.
Yep.
It takes time. Please subscribe, help us out, help us support what we keep wanting to do, because we're having a blast doing it, and hopefully everyone's getting some good stuff out of it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So this week we have a pretty good topic, emotional intelligence.
I'm out.
You're out. You're done. You're done. You're done. And the reason people are like, well, what does that have to do with turning 50 or whatever? But I think an event that happened this week to you really was a perfect, segue into the topic we're talking about, because I think emotional intelligence is very important. And as I researched it, there's many parts to it. So today we're going to kind of focus on one part of it.
Okay.
And emotional intelligence basically is the ability to understand and manage one's emotions, which is not easy to do at all.
No, it's
and I think I noticed something in myself as I got older, the ability to manage those emotions much better. Mm-hmm. But again, as I researched this, I realized how much emotional intelligence plays a role in everything we do. Relationships, work, everything. It's just,
agree.
It really is the ability to handle things and react to it. And one part of this, the one part of it that is such a pet peeve of mine, I call it a pet peeve, but through researching for the show, I'm starting to understand it a little bit better, is self-awareness. Okay. And self-awareness is recognizing your thoughts, your actions, and your feelings. Okay, so by recognizing those things, thoughts, actions, feelings, it makes you take a step back a little bit. So when I first think of self-awareness, people are like, well, self-awareness, going in the grocery store.
Yep.
And the lady's getting something in the aisle, and her cart's in the middle of the aisle, so no one else can pass.
Yeah.
I'm like, she has no self-awareness.
No.
Just completely oblivious. And it drives me crazy.
Yep.
Because I'm just like, come on, understand your surroundings. Right? Driving in the left lane slow.
Oh.
Like, okay.
Yeah, come on.
It is self-aware. Like, it's either you just don't care, or you don't realize you're doing it.
And I don't know about the don't realize. I think there is.
I will say this. I have had cases where I've been in the left lane and I thought I'm just kind of in a zone going, and I look up and there's somebody right up my butt. You know what I mean? Like just hauling. And then I look down and I actually was maybe, I don't know. Sometimes I guess it's rare, but it's happened.
Yeah.
So I try
Yeah.
to give someone the benefit of the doubt, but when they see you in your rearview mirror and then don't move, then it's like, okay. So, but then I start to, as we're researching today's topic, emotional intelligence, and how self-awareness is one of like the pillars of emotional intelligence, it really got me thinking, I should say, about that old, like, take a step back, or when you're getting ready to fire off that email and you walk away and come reread it again.
Yeah.
As you get older, I think the ability to manage that hopefully gets stronger, because you've been through enough cases. Like, listen, if Lori says something to me, which irritates me, 32-year-old Chris would have reacted a certain way,
This way. Yeah.
versus 53-year-old Chris, right?
100%.
Because it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
It's just
Well,
not-
and there's 20 years of experience there.
Exactly.
That says this is not beneficial, that this will not yield the result that we want.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think, again, people are like, what does this have to do with getting older? It has everything to do with getting
Everything.
older, because you
Yeah.
learn, but you also mature enough to where you're able to categorize things. Is it that big of a deal?
Yeah.
And everything was a big deal when I was young.
Sure.
Are you kidding me? Like, I'm not, I would fight I'm just like argue, debate, everything. But
Right.
now it's just like, it's not worth it. And as a byproduct of having a better self-awareness, growing in my emotional intelligence, I felt like my anxiety also has gone down, because not everything, I'm not like tightly wound
Yeah.
as I used to be,
Yeah.
because it's going to be okay.
Yep.
You know, it's kind of like when we first started this show, we had nerves, we had more like, and then we just got to a point where we're like, let's just have
do it.
fun. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted everything to be perfect, this, that, whatever. And now I'm just like, let's just have fun. And hopefully people are listening to what we're actually saying. Some of the comments still crack me up, and they're mostly about my hair, which I love.
I bet you do.
But it is literally like, just take a step back and listen to what
Yeah.
we have to say.
You know, I remember my mom when I was a kid. I remember my mom maybe turning 40 or she was over 40 at some around that age. And I just remember her going, I'm older and I just don't care. And I thought, how do you not care? I mean, you got to fight for this, you know, like you were saying, you know, I was younger and I'm going to fight to the death on
Right,
this. Right.
right.
You know, I'm going to, everybody's going to know this is how I feel about it. And now I kind of feel, well, the example we'll talk about is
Yeah.
a little different than
Yeah.
what I'm just saying, but I agree that it's just, you know,
It's
fine.
not-
You go ahead.
Right.
Yeah, if this is your victory, you go ahead. I know
Right.
I'm winning, but go ahead.
Right. I think I could be categorized, and maybe this will resonate. I was going to have the last word.
Oh, God.
I was going to have the last word. It's like, I don't care what it is, whether it's like whatever I was saying, but I'm going to say something last.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, and my grandmother was like, I don't know how she did it. When I look back at myself as a young kid, I was like in rage almost all the time. I was just so like, you know, and I'm just like, how did she do it?
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing to me. Like, it's amazing to me.
She was perfect for you.
Yeah. I mean, she just had a calmness about her, but there are a couple times where I pushed just a little too far. And it didn't end well for me.
Yeah.
But
Shocking.
yeah, but it's again, as you get older and mature, it's just not worth it. And sometimes I see these things, and this will come circle to what we're going to talk about. But you watch these things on TV, and these young kids, like that thing we had. Did you see that thing where at that track meet?
Oh,
I mean, okay, so here's a kid who's young, a teenager, another teenager. Teenagers are teenagers, right? There's a little thing about someone getting out of a seat, and the kid pulls out a knife and stabs the other kid in the heart.
yeah.
And he dies right there at the track. Okay, first of all, there's a lot to unpack here, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get into anything with it, but my first thought to myself is this: hey, why do you even have a knife on you? Okay.
Yeah.
But that kid's life is over.
Yeah.
Two people's lives are over.
Yeah.
One is passed away, and the other kid is going to prison. For what? I don't understand. When we were young, nobody's carrying knives.
No.
Nobody's Like you're going to get in fist fights, things like that. That's fine. But
the emotional intelligence
it's
in this situation was lacking.
It was just, and somebody like I guess the parents of the other kid were saying, "Oh, he was provoked."
Right.
I've been provoked a million times in my life. I'm
Never
not pulling
stabbed
out a
anybody.
knife to stab somebody, or even I couldn't even imagine hurting someone that bad.
No.
Because
That's not on the list
It's
of
weird.
things that I might do.
No, it's not even like this is an option. This is
Right.
an option.
Right.
You know, we live in Texas. We all have guns.
Let's see.
Yeah. when push came to shove, it'd be, I mean, I guess I would have to maybe in a situation use a gun, but just the thought of shooting at somebody would be
That
just
is
like
the last
exactly
option. And that is, I fear for my own life.
right.
Because there is an imminent threat.
Exactly.
This,
Yeah.
well,
it's
all right.
crazy. So we
Anyway,
can get it down a rabbit hole, but I'm sure thoughts of anger went through your head when this week happened. And why don't you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about what happened?
All right. Well, therapist, thank you for
Yes.
seeing me
Yes.
today.
Yes.
No, you were my therapy. You're the only one I told. Of course, Lori knew about it, and I talked to my dad, but you're the only one that I talked to. And so I was driving to work. It's a 4-lane road, 2 on each side with the median. The speed limit's 45, I think. And it's a going to work road.
Right.
Pretty much everybody on it they're heading to work. But I was driving in the left lane because I'm emotionally intelligent.
All right.
The right-hand lane, there's gas stations, there's neighborhoods, and people are turning into or pulling out of. And so I stay in the left lane and just kind of go around those people instead of stop and go and stop and go. So I'm in the left lane. A guy was behind me. Now I've got a dash cam, a front and rear.
Right.
And a guy was behind me and apparently didn't like how slow I was going. Well, in the right-hand lane, there was a guy on a bicycle. So our lane was slowing down a little bit as people would get over.
Right.
Okay. I had a huge space cushion in front of me and the guy that was in front of me. This guy gets over, speeds up past me. Now, I don't know where we're going, 35, 40 miles an hour. I mean, we weren't speeding, right? But anyway, this guy goes around me, sees the bicycle. Now my lane is beginning to stop. So I'm beginning to slow down. Well, he throws this blinker on and doesn't ask to get over. He just got over. Right. I slam on the brakes. Everything that was in my seats is now on the floor.
All right.
Right. I don't hit him. Now he's in the lane and I honked at him. Our lane begins to go. He rolls forward. So I begin to roll and he hit the brakes again. Brake checked me.
Yeah.
And I hit him. I couldn't believe that it actually happened to me.
Right.
I hear about it and people have brake checked me before, but we're usually, traveling at a speed or something. This was stop, go stop.
Right.
And I get out and he gets out of the car, arms like this.
Right.
And I said, well, congratulations. And he said, you hit me. I said, you brake checked me. Oh, we'll just call the cops. I said, good. Let's do that. Let's have a conversation when they get here. And I sat back down in my car.
Right.
Waited for the cops to get
So
there.
before we go any further, paint the picture.
Sorry.
He was in what kind of car?
He was it turns out it was an older car. It was a 2012 a Honda SUV.
Okay, SUV, and you're in your big
I'm in my F-150.
F-150. So you, first of all, he's brake checking a
Huge
substantially
truck.
bigger.
And it's lifted with big tires.
Yes,
I mean, this
yes,
is
this
a lot of
isn't
weight.
like a typical F-150. It's a Texas F-150, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just don't understand the thought process. Again, emotional intelligence of him. So go on with the he gets out, you get back in your car.
I got back in the car. Again,
he calls the cops, you call the cops.
He did. He called, and I was fine. Yeah, go ahead and call him.
Okay.
Policeman got there. I have. We talked about guns. I have a concealed handgun license.
Right.
And so I didn't have one in the car, but I've always been told, go ahead and hand that to the police officer, so
Right.
he knows right away you have no felonies.
Right.
So I hand him my license and my CHL. Now, when he pulls up, I don't get out of the car. I don't jump out and start defend myself because I'm in the back. I hit him, right? And so by just visual representation, it's my fault.
Right.
So I just wait until he comes. So door's open, you know, so he can see. Hands are out, so everything. So hand him my stuff. He goes, what happened? I said, well, basically brake check me. You know, tell him what happened. I said, and I've got the video on the dash cam. And he goes, okay. So hands me back my CHL, goes up, talks to the other guy, comes back. We talk a little bit. We wait for a while. Then we pull off of the street so we're not stopping traffic.
All right.
And then he says, I ask him, because he kind of says something about me being in the back and is kind of alluding to it being my fault. And I said, are you going to write a ticket like this is an at fault?
Right.
And he goes, well, based on the position of the car. I said, it's not my fault.
Right.
He began to go and then stopped again abruptly. And so I got a ticket for failure to control speed.
Okay. Which I think this rear-ending automatic, it's a person that rear-ended's fault,
Yeah.
I think
That's a crock.
is a terrible law. I think it's ridiculous
Yes.
because I've been in that situation before. Going through, we were driving down, as in Peoria. There was a yellow light, blinking yellow light, and
Stop in front
a
of you.
lady, older woman, thought it was going to turn red, and she just slammed on her brakes. I had nowhere to go, but because I wasn't the 2-second rule or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but slamming on the brakes, that's like, you know,
Yeah.
and it was frustrating. And so when they came, I'm like, you know, I was young, I didn't know, and I'm like, yeah, she slammed on her brakes, blinking yellow light. Well, you rear-ended her, it's your fault. So
Yeah.
I got a ticket. I'm like, this is insane. So
Yeah.
so a couple things. Let's just
Okay.
talk about it. So emotional intelligence, we're talking about that. We're
Yep.
talking about self-awareness, emotional intelligence. So obviously your reaction, you had anger,
Sure.
right? But you knew, like, getting out with the tire iron or your gun or something to go up and shoot the guy or beat him senseless
Never crossed my mind.
never crossed your mind, because is it really worth it?
Right.
You know, and, you know, I think, unfortunately, we see this all the time, these road rage. Someone goes up,
Yeah.
gets pissed. They do have their gun in the car and they end up shooting somebody.
Right.
Over what?
Yeah.
Over what?
Yeah.
Like, it makes no sense. Like, if someone's driving 50 in a 65 in the left lane, I'm going to cuss, I'm going to get mad, I'm going to do whatever. I'm not going to kill him
No.
over that.
No.
Right? But I think this is the emotional intelligence that you've displayed, that you've grown into.
Yeah.
You know, maybe as a young guy, you would have, I don't know.
I don't know.
Right?
Yeah.
If maybe,
I know my conversation with the police officer would have been different.
right.
But it ultimately, at the end, when he's handing me the ticket, I said, he said something about court. And I said, I've got to go to court over this?
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, you're getting a ticket. And I said, and I was very polite, right? And I just said, respectfully, I disagree. And I know that doesn't change anything, but I need you to know
Right.
that respectfully, I disagree with me getting a ticket because someone else was unable to control their emotions.
Right. And I think, again, that person did not display emotional intelligence.
Right.
By thinking it's work traffic. I mean, there's just people you have to deal with work traffic, right?
Yeah.
We live in the 4th largest city in the United States. There is traffic. It's just something you have to deal with, whatever, right?
Yep.
And I was at church one time, and they said, when you're driving and someone's, you know, you're upset you're upset with the way someone's driving, for a second, try to imagine what's going on with them right now. Did they just lose a family member? Did they just, you know, break up with their boyfriend, girlfriend? Are they whatever? Maybe something's happening in their life that they're maybe distracted. And I started thinking about that. And sometimes I think about it, and I got to be honest, sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
And I have been caught sometimes. It's kind of funny. I remember one time in particular, there was this lady driving in front of me, and I was like, it was like a 2-lane road. I couldn't get past her, no passing. It was driving me batty, right? And I was a little bit younger. And so I was yelling and, whatever. And it finally broke into 2 lanes, and I get up there and I'm going to let her know that.
Right. She's wrong.
She's wrong.
Right.
And I get ready. I mean, I'm ready, and I pull up next, and it was a little old nun. And I felt so ridiculous. Yes. Yeah. Felt so ridiculous that, I mean, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like, but again, right?
Yep.
I think I have, and this goes back to the self-awareness. I have a low tolerance level for stupid people.
Yeah.
I just do. And I don't know if that's ever going to change. It's gotten better, but I still do find myself struggling with my emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
When it comes to people who are so oblivious and unself-aware that they are causing me, again, it's not that big a deal sometimes, but
still,
time is precious.
Yep.
I'm not on their time schedule. I'm on mine. So be aware of that. And part of the other pillars of emotional intelligence, we'll get into some of this other stuff that's actually was really eye-opening to me as I'm researching, made me take a step back and think, about just self-control, empathy, motivation, different things. So I really think when I used to think about emotional intelligence, I used to think about, as a man, am I in touch with my feelings? Okay, that's part of it, but not the whole thing. And I think it's such a broad kind of thing that one reason I want to explore it is just because as we grow older, we're tested a lot, but we also learn a lot. And I hope that as a younger person watching this, maybe my nephew Jacob, who watches, thinks about emotional intelligence, right? Very mature kid for his age, very well-rounded, but young. And I'm sure there's plenty of things he's learned from his dad that helps him react in certain situations a certain way. But maybe he'll listen to this and take a step back. And sometimes, even at work or whatever, because we deal with multiple personalities at work.
Yes.
And the ironic part of the guy that brake checked you is...
Yeah. We work at the same company.
Works at the same company. I mean, what a day, right?
Yeah.
What a day.
We really don't necessarily cross paths.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
He does.
But works at the same company.
Yeah.
The irony, right?
Yeah.
And what's also funny is that like sometimes when I'll give Michelle a ride to work because I'll home office and she'll go in. Obviously she has to go in because she's injecting and doing whatever.
Right.
And she always tells me, when we get close to work, control yourself. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, because you're going to end up honking and yelling at a client going to the spa. And I'm like, all right.
Hey, that was me going to church. Lori, we got close to church, and Lori's like, that may be somebody that we go to church with. Just don't. Like, all right. And sure enough,
yes,
they'd pull into the parking lot.
It happens to me. It's happened to me before, and it's hilarious. And so, okay, good. So, self-awareness. So we'll continue to talk about it, its impact on emotional intelligence as we continue. So we'll build on it as we continue to get to the next pillars. And the next one we talk about self-regulation, which is a kind of a cool one because it deals with like some of our vices and things we're kind of like,
what do we turn to?
Where we turn to, and how that affects our emotional intelligence too.
Okay.
So
Can I finish the?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that-
Yes.
Were you?
So there is a silver lining.
Yes, there is.
To your story.
I like this is
Yes,
the good
yes.
part. Late yesterday. Well, so I have to talk with my insurance company. So to explain what's going on, my insurance company says we've already been called by the other driver.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like, can I just say one thing?
Uh-huh.
I don't know the number to the police, so I don't even know if I got in an accident, how to call the police. And the fact that he filed a claim that immediately, I feel like he's done this before.
I wonder, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
So it's
That's a good
interesting.
point. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So I call and they say, because I get an email that says, hey, a claim has been filed. And I'm like, it hadn't been 30 minutes. Anyway, so I call and the lady, nice young lady. And she just says, okay, so you assume the responsibility. And I go, well, she goes, because you were in the back. And I go, but it wasn't my fault.
Right.
And she goes, okay, would you like to dispute the liability? And I go, I don't know. And she was, again, very sweet. We had a nice conversation. She just kind of laughed. And I said, look, I'm 53. I've never had a wreck. I've never hit anybody. And I've never had a ticket. So I don't know. If I say I accept the liability, then what does that do for me in court?
Right.
And she goes, well, and in summary, it doesn't bode well. I'm like, okay. I said, so what happens if I dispute it? Well, we assign an adjuster and they talk to you, they talk to the other driver, and then they make a determination. Is there 100% my fault, 100% his fault, or a split decision? It's 40% mine, 60% his, or whatever. And I said, all right. And I said, I said, do I have to tell you now? And she goes, well, no, but we have to put something in now. And I'm like, okay. And I said, you know what? This son of a gun is not doing this to me. I dispute the liability. I would like to have an adjuster take a look at this.
Wow.
And she said, I could just hear her grin.
Right.
And also I finally got him to make a decision, right? Because I was back and forth. I didn't know. Give me examples. What is the process? So the adjuster calls. And in between that phone call and the adjuster, I had uploaded my video, my dash cam video, and some pictures and stuff. And so when he calls, I said, I don't understand why I'm being penalized. This guy couldn't keep his emotions in check, and I'm the one that's being inconvenienced. I'm at work. I'm trying to do work. I've been in and out of meetings so that I could jump on this to go back to the meeting, to go back to this. Right. And I said, I told him the same thing. I said, look, here's the video. And he looked at it. And I said, I don't see how this is my fault. Again, I'm 53, no tickets, no accidents. I don't live in Houston my entire life and not have accidents as an unsafe driver. Well, he looked at the video and he goes, okay, this is not as clear cut as I thought it would be. Let me have some other guys look at it with me and get some other opinions, and I'll call you tomorrow. That's great. I thank you for just doing this. Calls me yesterday and he goes, just want to let you know that we're disputing the claim. We're not paying anything.
That's great.
It's 100% not your fault.
That's great.
It's on him.
Right.
And so he, ironically, the adjuster, when he called me the first time, had already been called by the other guy. And then yesterday, when the guy called me back, I said, well, now what do you tell the other? And he goes, well, ironically, he's already called me. And I've already told him. Yeah. So
this is not this guy's first rodeo. He does this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, right now I feel not vindicated, right? But I kind of, in a way, I do. Right. That it was my word against his word, and I had video evidence. And the other driver told the adjuster, "I'm going to get a lawyer," or whatever. And he goes, "Okay. Tell him to call me and I'll send him the video."
Yes.
And I'm like, I cracked up.
That is like, these videos are such lifesaver. I mean, anybody I'm guilty. I should have a dash cam. Yeah. I mean, it's just, That's so smart of you, and I'm surprised I don't have one, but I need to get one. So
everybody,
yeah,
get a dash cam.
Get a dash cam.
Yes.
We're not sponsored by dash cam, but we should get a dash
we'd
cam.
be happy to
Exactly.
promote your product.
So it's a great story. I love it, and it feels good to finally come out on the other side because, again, I find it ironic that this guy, like I said, he seems like a pro at this.
And I'd never really thought about that until now.
Yeah. So if anything, it comes up, you say, how many other claims has he filed on this? You know, so it's interesting. But
Lori did. I said, if I see him at work, I'll just go, oh, you almost brake checked me again. Didn't want to run into you.
Right. But what's funny, he's in IT, right?
Yeah.
So all your emails and the rest of your files will go missing on your computer. But, it is what it is.
If it happens, it happens.
Yeah, it happens.
I just, whatever.
Well, it's a great story, and it's ironic that our topic was
Yeah, it
self-awareness and all this stuff, and then this happened. and as we continue to talk about this, we'll continue to hear the updates on the story.
I'll give you
So
updates.
it's hilarious.
The
saga of you just trying to drive to work. So, all right, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Good job.
Thanks for watching Man vs. 50 with author Richard Malouf. Don't forget to subscribe.